Hi, welcome to part 2 on chapter 1. We're talking about the foundations in early childhood education. I want to touch on a little bit about John Dewey. So he was actually the first American influence on American education, and he believed that children were valuable and that childhood was an important part of their lives. Like Froebel, he felt that education should be integrated in life. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel that education is a good thing starting early as possible and going up? What are your views about that? I know we've learned a lot about different philosophies, ideas about education. So, kindergarten came about when children were 5, and as this slide says, really it came first in a child's home. So remember how I mentioned in part 1 that kindergarten word, it means children's garden, which is a great term to use because it kind of brings to mind the image of like growing seeds, right? Blossoming. So like a little seed, children's garden, they're all little there. And soon within a year, you see the growth, so much growth from kids. It's pretty amazing when you work with kids and see how much they learn, right? So we're just going to talk about kindergarten. Let's see, from the standpoint of the National Association for the Education of Young Children. So some of you may be familiar, and it's called NAEYC. And this was actually inspired by, let's see, it was Patty Smith Hill. And she wrote, actually, it's interesting little fact. She actually wrote the Happy Birthday song. So it was her that wrote Happy Birthday. And she created also large blocks and hollow blocks for children to use. So you know how like in a preschool room, they have like a block area? So think about really crediting her for a hands-on approach in having blocks. Building and using blocks really helps creativity, helps with math, it helps with size, it helps with their small motor skills. So a lot of credit to her. And that she also made improvement in teachers' methods, materials, and curriculum. Okay? And then back in the 1800s, they used to call, instead of preschool, it used to be called like nursery school. So nursery school, interestingly, was because they were, young children, usually nursery school age, typically 0 to 5. And there were different types of preschools. So one was called, like, if you look right here, it's called the Bank Street College. I don't know if you've heard of that. Lab schools, I'm sure you have, because Rio Hondo has a lab school. So basically, it's a school where children come to, preschool age, and they learn hands-on learning. And within that school, they have other teachers learning from their peers, and they get a lot of hands-on experience watching children. Mitchell actually helped create a group and brainstorm the mastermind of these kind of type lab schools, and hers was called the Bank Street College of Education. And also Eliot, who said a child's development comes from their parents and their relationships. So she was the first woman to receive actually a doctoral degree from Harvard. So she came to establish the Pacific Oaks College, which is again another free school to help children with hands-on learning. Okay, also help teachers learn from each other, and really the core development. In the mid-century, there was a thing called a Kaiser Child Care Center. This was actually during World War II. So this type of childcare, which was only around for a short time, from 1943 to 1945, and what it was is a 24-hour care, because the parents were actually working in the war, at the war, and then moms were working. So a lot of times they would have care for children that whole time. Wow. Not too much now. I don't think there's any daycare that I know of that's 24 hours. But again, that was a need back in the day. And then again, we were talking about education for some more interesting and different types of preschool that were started in the United States, and the Head Start. So this was established in 1965 for children of kind of low income and helping bridge the gap and giving opportunity for children to learn. They also provided not only education, but they provided medical, dental, nutritional health, and mental health services for these children with lower income families. So again, that started in 1965. And then in 1957, there was this high scope curriculum created because if you heard about Sputnik, which was a satellite launched from Russia, which was the first launch on the moon and in space, first launch in space. And then Americans started to say, hey, you know what, we need to really bump up our education and what we're providing for kids to kind of get more of a cognitive approach to learning. So that was kind of came up about high scope curriculum was created to help children focus more on the cognitive aspects of learning. Okay? And then infant and toddler care. So a second child revolution came, more types of families and more working parents. So there was a higher need, right, for child care and child education. The lack of properly funded centers and family child care homes for very small children. So even if you see today, lots, especially in California, it's so hard to have, one parent working. It's usually a 2-income household. And nowadays, the cost of childcare is just so high that many people can't afford it. So again, that's kind of a sad, reality today. Even though parents are working so hard and they're trying to make the money, a lot of them can't even afford the child care. Today, the average cost of child care for full-time care is around $1,000 a month. Now, again, that's full-time, even higher. It's probably typically $1,200 now. So thank goodness Head Start is still here. Our colleges have their lab schools to help families that, do not have that income. Then we go into contemporary development, and throughout this course you're going to hear DAP. And what that is developmentally appropriate practices. So this helped articulate early education principles of standards of teaching and practices that enhance basically the growth of the whole child, including their age. It includes the family and also the individual child. Okay, So they really believed in play and how important that is. In 2001, No Child Left Behind Act was established. The Common Core state standards were also established. And all of this helped children of lower income and of all different abilities to be able to get education. This included media, technology. And then medicine's impact on early child education. So again, remember what I was telling you, the Montessori helped, and also other preschools, help really eradicate and help, combat disease, sickness by teaching about healthy hygiene, eating properly. They were talking to parents about how children learn, how they can help with the impact on a child's health. So it's just some common sense approaches to child rearing. Let's see. And then Macmillan invented the name nursery school. So this, let's see. So this was kind of like in the first, nursery school was where the Macmillan sisters, their theory of nurture and a good health at an early age, nursery school. So they were really big on, again, how important outdoor play was to the program. These sisters were very advocate for play, for good food, what they called nurture. So many children were, given really good meals, and they were talking about how important it is for lunch and snacks in the care for children. So all of this movement came about. Have you heard of Amelia Reggio? And this is a woman in Italy. And then she's actually the place, let's see, Malaguzzi, I want to say that right, Malaguzzi. He actually, the place was Reggio Emilia in Italy, and he started saying his philosophy, which included like a preschool, a welcoming school to families in that community, and really invited the relationships among teachers, the children, the parents, the community. So that was a really big idea from Loris, thinking about how to strengthen a child's identity and purpose, and that they're, important in society. So Reggio Emilia is a great preschool idea, which many preschools go by this philosophy, that take in account of the whole child, meaning the family, community, the child nature into consideration. And the psychological impact on child education, psychology. So again, all of this in a preschool setting. We want to really teach and focus on language acquisition. The effect of early learning experiences on development is important. Attachment to others, and also the neuroscience and the cognitive discoveries that children make. And then again, themes in childhood education and helping us as a profession in this field of early childhood is really helping children get a sense of their identity, their purpose, helping them be an advocate for themselves. We want them to participate in school and life. We want to create that family from school, home, and engage the whole child. So I hope you enjoyed these two different parts of chapter 1. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.